I wasn't talking about whether he was being sincere or not. I was talking about what's the right thing to do for the government. I want to give a little background. Maybe some of our viewers are actually interested in this issue. I want to explain what happened. We're in a situation again where really neither Gantz nor Netanyahu can form a government. So there's two things. On their one level, they're fighting against one another to try to disqualify one another's governments. Right. So they can get it. So what's going on? I'll explain you how they're doing that. So on Gantz's side, he cannot form a government with the Islamic jihadists. That would disqualify him. But he has gotten them to agree to stand with him just on the vote to remove the speaker of the Knesset. So what they want to do is to remove the speaker of the Knesset so that they could bring forth a vote to disqualify a prime minister candidate who has ktav ishum, who has indictments against him. So this was a political ploy on their part to try to disqualify him. So then the Likud is playing a political ploy the other way of saying, no, well, if that's what you want to do, we won't open the government this time. And if you keep trying to do that, we'll keep advertising that you're trying to bring jihadists into your government, and we'll find the moderate people in your party to swing over to our party. So that's, and if they keep going that way, number one, they'll never form a government. Number two, they'll destroy another. And then number three, the corona will take over the country. We'll have an economic collapse and we're all gone and we'll all drown. We don't even need to have anybody throw us into the ocean. But I think what's happening, and regardless of whether you think it's sincere or not, I think what's happening is that both Netanyahu and Gantz are aware of the fact that there could be a disaster in this country, both health-wise and economically, and they don't want to be facing that alone. I think both of them are thinking, I wouldn't use the word scared because that's not necessarily, they're both high military guys, so maybe that's not in their language, but concerned to the point of fear that if we don't pull this together, I don't want to be the one that this is going to be the blame that the country collapsed on. And I think they realize they need to get together. My sense is that, and we don't know this, but I think Gantz and Netanyahu are personally talking to one another, just one-on-one. I think that they know that they've got to pull this government together. We've got to pull the people into unity. By the way, Ron, I want to mention something else, that it strikes me something a little similar. If you look in the Bible, the history of the nation of Israel was the whole history was a tension between the Israeli tribe and the Judean tribes. There was always the basic political split in this country between the conservative, a little more religious oriented, and the wider part of the more secular liberal. That's been there for 3,000 years already. We really haven't changed that much. And it's interesting to see the different political parties. You almost get one for every tribe, and there are ethnic commitments, and it's amazing. It's almost as if the spiritual situation of Judah and Israel and the split between the tribes, it's like we're looking at the same spiritual conflict today that there's been for all these years. It's amazing.
What you have on one side is you have one group playing politics, and then, which is, as you said, we're going to form a government with the 15 Arabs who aren't necessarily Islamic jihadists. Some of them are wonderful, people, great citizens of the country. Some of them are enemies of the state. You have 15 Arab Knesset members, and we can't generalize them as all being in one side. So you've got the blue and white saying, we are going to form a government with these 15 Arabs, and that way we'll be able to get rid of Netanyahu forever. And the way they would do it now, and so then what the Likud, the right, says is, well, you're going to put Arabs in positions of power, which is not really true at all. What they're going to do is just get them to vote in the government, and then they'll take a back seat because the Arabs themselves aren't willing to actually be functioning in the government. And then the other side looks at Bibi and the Likud and says, well, you are a threat to our very democracy. Now, they're both, it's hyperbole, it's exaggeration. There is no threat to Israeli democracy right now. If there's any one country in the world where the people would not put up with a dictatorship, it's like what's her name? Golda Meir. Golda Meir. Golda Meir said to Nixon, she said, "You've got it easy. You're the president of, 250 million whatever people." She said, "I am the prime minister of a million prime ministers."
Right.
So that is Israel.
Yeah, so we actually have too much of a democracy here. We're overly democratic in some ways.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about this coronavirus. Right now, let me just tell you our situation. My wife is with her mother in Ashkelon, and they're in lockdown together. Her mother is 80 years old. Ilana, it can't go in and go out out of fear that she might, bring the virus into the house. I'm here in Tel Aviv, and my daughter and her new husband were in the same home, the three of us, and then my other daughter, Danielle. And so the four, we're in the house all day long. Now, thank goodness, because I was thinking, I'm not a doctor, believe it or not, but I thought, well, at least let us go outside and get fresh air and do some exercise, because unless you're sitting around talking with a big group of people, it would seem to me that you're not going to get the virus. And I love to ride my bicycle. And so I was pleasantly surprised 2 days ago when they lifted that, and they said, if you're going outside for exercise, you can. I was outside yesterday on the boardwalk biking, and there were a ton of people biking and walking and running. And there were two guys, and there was a lot of police too, by the way. And there were two guys I noticed that were just sitting on a bench drinking beer. And the police came up and they said, "No, get out. That's not what we're doing here." So I think Israel, we've taken some pretty drastic measures almost before anyone else in a country that was not super infected. Right now we're about 1,000 or so cases, a little bit more than that. We've only had one fatality, thank God, and he was 88 years old, a Holocaust survivor who had multiple conditions already, pre-existing conditions. We have, I think, 15 people that are in serious condition right now. So thank God, up until now, I really feel our government has done a great thing. But the thing that is concerning me, Asher, is the economic price that we're going to pay down the road. I'm not an economist, but it doesn't take a genius to realize that if all your restaurants are closed for a period of 4 weeks, your movie theaters are closed. Not that I'm a fan of movies. Stores are closed. I live right underneath me is a mall, completely closed. My heart is really breaking for people here and for all over the world, and how we're going to help them. But what are your thoughts on that, Asher?
Well, I think, yes, there's a very difficult economic situation. The government has told people to send people out to what they call chalat, chopesh lelo tashlum, which means that you go on temporary vacation with no payment, with no salary, but the Bituach Leumi, sort of the social security system of the nation, says the national security will pay you your salary for that time. Well, right. We can do that maybe for 1 month. So, right. But even for 1 month would push us on the brink of a economic meltdown. But I think it's going to be difficult. But I would say this is one thing, that the Israeli people know how to respond to crises. I think that actually Israel will respond much better than other countries like Italy or France or Spain. I think we're going to do much better. And I think we'll actually come out of it. And the people are very intense. I think we're going to be okay. But I do think the Lord does want these two. He wants unity, both among us as the believers. He wants unity in the government. And he's humility to do that, and he's not going to let the pressure off until we do that. So, but yeah, the economic situation is people are scared.